Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session. After a wonderful rest for the last week, we are back again with our week fourth, session number 6. And we are going to talk about compliance, governance, risk, right? Which is how you need to have a proper framework. Whatever you do, how you can connect that dots and create that framework. So we'll have two of the best speaker to talk about compliance as well as security and how you can maintain them on an ongoing basis. As you all know, we have this entire series focusing on how to learn about security from foundation, and we are in this week fourth. 2 more weeks to go for the finale. So please do join with us, and I assure that you'll have a great learning with us. From speaker standpoint, you've heard already from Aishwarya, Disha, Manish, Raji, Shashank, and Gaurav, right? These are the wonderful speakers what we have. We'll have two interesting speakers today in our session, not just one. So it's going to be the double day, what we'll try to cover up from the last week, right? You all know the community partner. This entire event has been done along with our community partners. So AWS User Group Nasik, AWS User Group Indore, Rajkot, AWS User Group Dehradun, as well as we have the partners from other communities, external communities like Cloud Security Alliance, CNCF Thane, as well as DevOps community. So kudos to all our community partners. This is only possible with their help, right? Couldn't be, I can't even imagine that we can host this event without their support. And also to announce, right, at the last week, we did this entire social media campaign. Still, there is no late. If you have missed out to participate, please do it right today. We are doing a blogging contest. So whatever the sessions we have been done on demand version, which are there on our YouTube channel, right? The playlist link I'll push in the chat. You can write a summarized version, a blog around it. What was your learning? What was the key moment? How did you enjoy about it? Put it on the LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium, anywhere, and just tag AWS User Group Mumbai. Use this hashtag and get into this contest. 2 rules. 1, it has to be an authentic content. 2, you have to be frequent or a constant participate. And the guys who are in this contest at the finale will give them a special reward for knowledge sharing, as well as you can use this blog for your other contributions, as well as posting and showing that you know about security. So it's not still late. You still have all the sessions live on YouTube on demand. Go write some blogs, summarize and share it in your community, and do tag us, please. As well as you know, we are all available across all security, all kinds of social media platform, whether you talk about LinkedIn, Slack, Meetup, Twitter, Insta, WhatsApp, right? So please subscribe to one of this social media platform so you stay updated, you know what's happening in your nearby user group, as well as you're aware about what's happening in this entire security event. With that, let me talk about today's session. This is session number 6, simplifying the compliances using AWS Cloud Native Services. All the folks out here, especially who are having an experience from industry, they know compliance is a big pain. Whichever industry you talk about, whether you're talking about financial, healthcare, or even retail nowadays, Data Privacy Act or sensitivity of data are all over the place. Whichever region, wherever you're part of, whichever country, it is must that how you get the compliance, a right posture for your auditing, for your internal compliances, for government need, other reasons. And that's why we have two renowned speaker about it. Raji, she leads a compliance and security practice head, and as well as she's an AWS ambassador. We'll also have Manish. He's a cloud manager and very much thorough when it comes to handling the compliance or ensuring how you keep your server updated with the latest definition of OS. Let me get both of them to the stage. Hey Raji, hey Manish, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Good
Hey, hi,
morning,
good morning,
Sanjay.
Sanchit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you. I know you're very occupied, very busy. So thank you so much for spending your time from the weekend and really helping our community to learn how exactly this entire thing has been done. And also just to talk about, guys, Raji is a reinvent speaker. She has talked about the security and other kinds of best practices when it comes to security last year at reinvent. So yeah, please stay tuned. I think ask as many questions as you can in the chat. You know, there is a chat option in the comments. So ask questions possible. I'm pretty sure you'll have a very interesting time with both our speakers, Manish as well as Raji today. So Raji, the stage is yours. I'm bringing your screen. You can go ahead with your presentation, and Manish will wait for your talk. Once Raji is done, then we'll pass on the thread to you. Okay? So stay
Sure.
tuned for that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sanchit. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening to all the folks who have joined from across the globe. And it's my pleasure, and I thank Sanchit for this opportunity to talk on a topic which is so much spoken about among the senior leadership of each and every organization around the world. It's risk and compliance. So, considering the cyber attacks which we see each and every day, this has become a board topic. It's no longer, a team focusing on compliance and risk. It's gained a lot of attention across every industry, like how Sanchit said. So, governance, risk, and compliance. So, governance is something which we do in our day-to-day life, right? Leave the organizations or leave the technology part. In order to ensure our house is safe, we take certain measures. Uh, and it's in every aspect. Like, for example, it starts at home. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's nothing new. We have to apply the same seriousness when it comes to the IT systems that we manage. We have a lot of measures that we take in order to ensure the security of our household. I don't think we will keep our house unlocked and go on a vacation. So each in our day-to-day practice itself, there are certain governance measures that we take. And in every organization, be it an IT organization or be it a financial service or anyone, however small or big they may be, there are security measures which they take. I would want you to share what security practices you do in your company to ensure that the data of your organization is not leaked out and it is secure. So please do share what you do in your organization in the chat window. And what we have seen is invariably every organization at the very basic level, they have security awareness. Like every employee, when they join a company, they have to undergo certain courses. Every year, usually in an organization, they are mandated to undergo certain security courses. And why do they do that? So that every employee has some basic awareness of cybersecurity. This is something which we see across every organization. Apart from that, there are many measures which organizations take, and do share what you do in your company within the private chat window, and let's make the session as interactive as possible. So, technically speaking, governance, risk, and compliance is a strategy. It's a strategy for ensuring that the organization risk, cyber risk, or any risk for that matter, is not at stake. And to ensure that the risk is low or minimal, there are certain measures that we need to take, and it's like these measures are like a guidebook. There are certain do's and there are certain don'ts, and there are certain periodic activities. Now these are collectively called as compliance, like ensuring that these measures do happen on the ground. How do we ensure that? Is through compliance. Now, this concept is applicable everywhere. Now, it's at on-prem IT systems, even at the business applications that you have, and of course to our AWS cloud systems as well. So when you start migrating, or when you create resources in cloud, uh, due to the very advantage of what cloud offers, we can create resources in seconds, and the footprint or the number of resources, they keep expanding, and we will not even know what's happening behind the scene. So there is a very high chance that if we don't put in certain do's and don'ts practices, things can go out of hand very easily in no time. So when I say out of hand, it could be in terms of cyber threats, it could be cost, or it could be just being too many resources unnecessarily. Things can turn chaotic. So even before you start creating resources in cloud, there is a certain foundation that needs to be established, and then you roll out the cloud platform for your teams to start consuming it. So don't just one moment you create an AWS account, it's not a good practice to just expose it to your IT teams or start creating resources there. You have to ensure that the foundation is right, and then only you give it for the outside world to consume. So there are many things which go into cloud foundation, and security and compliance is one essential component. And today what we are going to see is one such example of what are the various rules that we can put into practice and how we can automate them, because it's not possible in the cloud world to manually go and check whether the security rule is being followed, or where it is getting slipped. So automation plays a key role here. So today we are going to see how do we bring in this foundation and how do we proactively ensure that the cyber security threat is kept at bay, right? Okay. So this is a framework which you will find in AWS. So this is an AWS framework itself, but it's pretty much applicable to any IT system. So this is what governance is in a nutshell. Like holistically, what does governance mean? How is it related to risk, and how does compliance come into picture? So governance is the first input. So consider it as a starting point. So every organization, they will be controlled by a number of third party auditors. They will have a lot of regulations to follow. They will have a lot of laws to follow. And because they have IT systems, and considering the today's world, they have to follow certain cyber security standards. NIST, ISO, these are the very minimal standards to start with. And as an organization, they will have their own internal policies as well. So every business is different. They will have their own internal rules. So all of these is an input, and these are nothing but the guidebook which I spoke about. And this guidebook has to be we have to ensure that this guidebook is followed, and if it is not followed, it means that the organization is moving towards a risk. So that's where governance is an input to risk. So we have to keep assessing and ensuring that the risk is always maintained at a minimal level. And how do we make it happen is through compliance measures. So we can have certain security tools which will do monitoring. So it will bring out the visibility. So if there are things going wrong, it will tell you that these are the resources which are not following the rules, or these users are not following the best practices, because you cannot find it manually, right? So you will have to take certain compliance measures. And you have to keep on assessing your internal systems. So you have to keep doing internal audits, so that when the organization goes for an external auditor, which happens twice or once a year, they are well prepared and they don't do anything at the last minute. So that's where compliance becomes very crucial, so that the governance and the risk is followed. Now, I spoke about what needs to be done. We'll also see what challenges organizations have in ensuring that these are followed. So obviously, it is not easy in the cloud or on-prem or any IT system world, for that matter. When things go complicated, it becomes difficult to ensure that compliance has been followed. So these are some of the challenges which invariably any organization has. They are unable to maintain data privacy and protection. Access controls and identity becomes a challenge, and the cloud applications have to be regularly patched, and cyber risk have to be managed. So these are some of the key challenges which typically organizations face in ensuring that GRC is maintained. And we need to, as partners of organization, we need to ensure that how do we use the cloud services, how do we bring in automation, and how do we ensure that these challenges are met. So in AWS world, there are a number of capabilities that AWS has, which can be leveraged to bring in compliance and to keep the risk at low. And the services that you are seeing, these are not all. I have just put the key services, but there are many more. For example, you have Control Tower. So Control Tower is a service heavily used to build the landing zone. Landing zone is the very foundational element which you work with when you start an AWS environment. So Control Tower has a lot of preventive security guardrails. It has a number of detective security guardrails, using which you can easily bring in some governance and some control onto the AWS accounts that you create. Config is a very important service when it comes to GRC, and today the demo that I'm going to show you is on config. So config is a key service which helps you to have a visibility into the resources that you create. It will tell you what resources have been created. It will tell you what resources are meeting the best practice, who are not meeting the best practice, and it will be a continuous assessment engine. So behind the scene, it keeps running, and if there are any configuration deviation, it will alert you. So that's the basic functionality of config, but we'll do a deep dive today on that. And then we have CloudTrail. CloudTrail, it will help you to track the user activity. So what has a particular user or what has a particular entity done from the first second to the second? What are the APIs which are getting called? So you will be able to know, and you can track what has been the sequence of actions. So CloudTrail greatly helps you in the monitoring area. IAM, most of you have worked. So this is a service which helps you to ensure that the authentication and authorization has taken place, and there is a number of ways in which you can bring it into practice. Systems Manager is another service which helps you in automation. So if there is any EC2 instance which is not having the latest patch, you can automate it with Systems Manager, and it will ensure that the latest patch has been installed. So Manish is going to talk in detail on that. And we also have Resource Explorer, again an inventory service, and we will be doing a deep dive today with Manish on that. And Artifact is a compliance capability that AWS has. So it has a set of PDFs and Excel workbooks. It will tell you how a particular compliance standard is met by AWS. And similar to security, compliance is also a shared responsibility. So the AWS infrastructure is compliant with all the standards, but it's our responsibility to ensure that the applications which are built on AWS is compliant. And Artifact is one of the tool which will help us. So let's do a deep dive into config, because that's going to be the topic, one of the topic of the day. So as I said, config is a configuration assessment. So it's basically an internal auditor. Let me go to my console, and yeah, I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Raji.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So this is the first landing page of config, and I have already enabled config in my account, so I can straight away go to the dashboard. So as you can see, it will tell you what rules are compliant. But before that, let's understand certain terminologies in console, right? So so these are certain terminologies like resources. What does resources mean in the context of config? So resources are the any resource, like any AWS entity which you create, be it a Lambda function or be it a load balancer. In any entity is a resource as per config. Configuration history. So config will record the configuration changes a resource has undergone. So how does it do it? So if you look at the previous slide, so if here we have all the resources, and config will keep on auditing these resources, and it has certain rules. These rules are nothing but best practices. The rules will be like S3 buckets should not be made public, can be one rule. Load balancer should not have HTTPS version 1. That can be a rule. And there are more than 250 such rules already available in config. But that's not all. We have the freedom to create our own rules, because practically speaking, when you start expanding your footprint, we will have our own internal security rules. So as I said earlier, every organization, they are controlled by their own internal policies. You can bring in those policies onto config through these custom rules, because AWS will not know what your internal policies are, but they have given config to you. So we have a good amount of opportunity in leveraging config's capability and adopting those internal security policies through custom rules. So custom rules are the one which helps config, and config will be checking the configuration against these config rules. And there are a lot of notifications. There are numerous ways in which config will tell you. So config can send you notifications. It can like you can also create your own custom notifications. And config also maintains a history, so it's not just a point in time notification. Like you can also, through a timeline, you will know what are the various changes a resources has undergone between, say, the first of a month, like 1st of March to end of March. If you want to know what are the various changes that a resource has undergone, you can see the entire history as well. So let's go to the console and see how these things work. So I was talking about resources, right? So you will be able to see an inventory. So this is how the inventory looks. So in this account, there are totally 78 resources, and these are the S3 buckets. These many KMS keys have been created. So it will basically get an inventory. You will have an idea how big or small your account is, and it will get you the count. So this is on the resources. And I was talking about rules, right? So if you go to rules, so these are the rules which are already been set up. So I spoke about managed rules. So similar to managed and custom, here also the rules are managed rules and custom rules. So you can create a custom rule using Lambda. You can create a custom rule using a guard. So this is another new capability which was added a couple of years ago. So let's see the managed rules for today. So these are the list of managed rules. So more than, as of today, close to 250 managed rules are already available. So and these are made, like you can just add these rules. For example, there is a rule called access keys rotated. So it will check whether the access keys or secret keys in IAM, whether they are periodically rotated, changed or not. As per a best practice, we should not retain the same access key for long. It should be updated periodically. So it is a detective security rule. So all you need to do is select this rule and then say next. So this is the name of the rule, a description of the rule, and it's a managed rule. You can also set up whether you want this rule to run every 12 hours or 24 hours. So it's up to you. And by default it is 90 days, but in many organizations they have a shorter time period. So you can this value is editable. So you can just put even 20 days. So every 20 days this key has to be rotated. That's your decision. And then you can have a key value pair and you can add this rule. So this was about managed rule. There are also ways in which you can create custom rules, right? So this is about the rules. And resources we already saw. So you will have a dashboard. You can see how many EC2 instances are there. You can filter out these resources. You have AWS resources, all resources categories. So if you want to see what are the various say Lambda functions created in your account, so you can filter it out like this. And in this account I have one Lambda function and it is non-compliant. So you will be able to see what is the memory size, the timeout, and you can also see why it is non-compliant. So these are the rules which are failing in this Lambda function. So the first two rules are compliant. The third rule is not compliant. So we can see why it is not compliant. So there is a rule security hub Lambda inside. So it will check whether the AWS Lambda function is in a VPC or not. So it's a good practice to keep Lambda function in a VPC. But this Lambda function is not inside a VPC, and that's why it has come as non-compliant here. And then you can go and fix it. All right. So how do you fix it? So the fixing is basically the remediation. So when things go wrong, you can take up a certain action and you can bring it back to a compliant stage. So that's what we call it as remediation. So today in the demo, we are going to see one such remediation. So let me go back to console. Before I go there, I also want to show you the timeline. So I was talking about resource timeline, right? So any resource if you take, so let's take our Lambda function itself. There is something called resource timeline. So it will tell you over a period of, like, I can choose between what date and what date. So I can say between March 1st until now, what are the various changes this Lambda function has undergone. So these changes are in terms of configuration. So if there is a best practice which has been deviated, I will be able to see when it was deviated, and I can choose the timeline to have a watch window on the Lambda function. And just like CloudTrail and other capabilities, you can also do querying. So you can write queries, and this query will run against all the data that config has collected. So I can run a query to list down all the EC2 instances which are non-compliant. So it's up to us. How do you want to alter this query? So this is about the queries capability. And again, there are certain queries which are managed, like which are already created. So you can see this creator column as AWS. So you can go inside this query and see what queries AWS has already written for us. So you can probably take this query and then tweak it and create your own query. So it's up to us how we want to manage it. And there is the settings. So in any point in time you want to say switch off the config, you can do that. So this is recording is on, which means that config is running. But if you want to switch off during some time, you can do that. And you can also alter where you want the config data. So behind the scene, all of these configuration observations are recorded in S3 bucket. So if you have your own bucket where you want the recording to happen, you can choose the delivery method. So all you need to do is just go to edit. You can also choose what sort of recording. So you may not want to record the configuration changes of all the resources. So if you want to do the recording of just say Lambda functions alone, you can do that. And you can also choose how long you want to retain the config data. And then this is on the IAM part. Here you can play around, like if you already have a bucket, you can bring in that bucket. And you also can create event rules, CloudWatch event rules for config. So this was an overview of what config is about. We spoke about an important concept called remediation. So in today's demo, yeah, let me wait till yeah. So this is the demo that we are going to see. So what we are going to do today is I have set up a config rule which will check if CloudTrail is running or not. So when any time it's not running or somebody plays around with the configuration of CloudTrail, the rule will become non-compliant. And how do we automatically do the corrective action and ensure that the rule through automation becomes compliant again? So this does not require any manual intervention when you actually deploy it in your AWS account. So without a human intervention, anytime when things go wrong, like any time when security best practice is deviated, we can use automation and we can bring it back to its desired state without a human intervention. So that's the power of a remediation which is automated. All right. So let's go to the demo again. I go to the rules and I have a rule which I'm using an AWS managed rule. So you can see here CloudTrail enabled. So this is an AWS managed rule which I added the way I showed you earlier. So when I added it, or I can even add this and show you how it looks. So just go to add rule, CloudTrail. So this is the managed rule. So I have to, put some other characters because I already have that rule already. So I have to make it distinct and create a unique rule. So the name of the rule has to be unique. So when I'm adding this rule, I can select the frequency in which the rule should be evaluated. Now, this rule is about ensuring that CloudTrail is kept on, right? And when CloudTrail is on, the recording of the CloudTrail will go to an S3 bucket. So I can give in the name of the S3 bucket. And that I can also have the option of subscribing or creating a SNS topic. So anytime this rule becomes non-compliant, this SNS topic will get a notification. And I can also attach a CloudWatch log group to the CloudTrail. So every logging that's happening in the CloudTrail can also be sent to a CloudWatch log group. So that's why you see these parameters, and all three are optional. But it's a best practice to have these parameters attached to this rule. So the moment you create this rule, this is how it will look. So you will be able to see in the rules window. So you can see this. So this is how it will appear once you create the rule. So you will have, like I have a bucket called Mindy Labs, and this is my CloudWatch group, right? So right now, this rule was last evaluated today of around 9:20 a.m. and this rule is compliant. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this rule non-compliant. Okay. So I'm going to go to my CloudTrail and I'm going to tamper the configuration in the CloudTrail. And when I re-evaluate this rule in config, it will turn to non-compliant. So let's do that. So I go to my CloudTrail. So this is the bucket name. So I go to my CloudTrail and then let me make the, let me stop logging. Okay, so the logging is stopped. So I have stopped the logging for Playground Labs, which is the CloudTrail for the Mumbai region, this account. So when I reevaluate this rule, after a few seconds, the status will become non-compliant. All right. So meanwhile, it becomes non-compliant. Let me go back to the architecture. So I have done this part. I have made it. I have simulated the misconfiguration. The config rule will become non-compliant, and I have created a event bridge rule. So that's the automation. There are two automation elements here. One is the event bridge rule, and one is the Lambda. So there is an event bridge rule which I have created, which will track, or anytime the config rule becomes non-compliant, the event bridge rule will get triggered. So let me go back to the console and refresh this page. Let me check whether it has become non-compliant. So as you can see, the rule has become non-compliant. Now this will trigger an event bridge rule. So I'm going to the event bridge rule. Let me show you the rule. So I have created a rule which is tied to config, and it is tied to the config rule which I added earlier. So anytime the compliance status of CloudTrail enabled config rule changes, this rule will get triggered. So let me show you some settings. So when you create the event bridge rule, this is how it will look. So you have to select what event you want to create. So here I'm selecting config. I'm also saying that anytime the config rule compliance change, whenever there is a status change in config rule compliance, and also I'm selecting which rule. Like you can also say any rule, like each and every rule in the config. Whenever there is a status change, event rule will get triggered, or you can restrict. You can select one particular rule in config, and you can integrate that rule with event bridge. So it's up to you how you want to do it. So here for the demo, I'm saying that anytime the status of CloudTrail enabled in config changes, this event bridge rule will get triggered. So this will be auto generated for you, and you can just create this rule. So this rule is tied to a Lambda function. So this rule will get triggered, and it will trigger a Lambda function. So I'll show you that Lambda function in detail. So this is the Lambda function which gets triggered through the event bridge rule. So if you go back to the architecture, so here you have the event bridge, which we saw now. And anytime this rule gets triggered, it will trigger a Lambda function. And this will do the remediation for us. All right. So what is there in the Lambda function? So this is a small flow chart which I have created. So the Lambda will first take the account ID, and it will take the bucket, it will take the trail name, and it will check whether obviously it will first initialize. It uses a Boto 3 Python SDK. This Lambda function code is also available in my GitHub repo, so you can download from there. So it will first initialize the client objects, and then it will take the CloudTrail object, and it will check for the configuration. So first and foremost, it will check whether the logging status is on or off. So if it is off, then it will turn on the logging status and it will send a SNS notification. If the logging status is on, there are the second level of configurations. It will check whether the right S3 bucket has been set or not. If the S3 bucket is wrong, then it will update the trail with the right S3 bucket and it will send a SNS. Now, if the S3 bucket is correct, it will next check the CloudWatch log group. So if the CloudWatch log group is incorrect, it's not matching, then it will update the CloudWatch log group to the right settings. And finally, it will send a notification that all the configurations are right and the config rule will turn compliant. So let me show you, it's a quick glimpse of the Lambda code. So first we create the object for the CloudTrail, and then we are also creating the object for SNS. And then these are the code which will instantiate the CloudTrail object. It will extract the configuration information. So this is the line which will extract the logging status. It will tell you whether CloudTrail is on or off. So if it is on, then it will say, check the configuration of S3 bucket. And if the S3 bucket is correct, it will next check the CloudWatch log group. And if the log group is also right, it will tell that all the configurations are correct. And whenever these configurations are deviating, it will update the CloudTrail object and it will send you the SNS notification. And there are certain internal helper functions which I have created to ensure that the code is modularized as much as possible. So you can refer this code and you can see how a Lambda can be used to do auto remediation. All right, so let's go to our Lambda function. So I'm going to the CloudWatch of this Lambda function. Ideally, the event bridge rule should have triggered this Lambda. So let me refresh. Okay, so it's 11:10. I see this Lambda getting triggered. And it says that the CloudTrail logging is on. So the CloudTrail log, which was off now, let me refresh it. Okay, so it has turned on. So which means that the config rule should also have become compliant now. So let me go to the config. I have to reevaluate this rule, because why I'm manually reevaluating is we have set up the frequency as 24 hours. So by default, by tomorrow, it will anyway turn to compliant. Now I'm manually evaluating this rule. So actions, reevaluate. So it will take at least 1 or 2 minutes for the rule to evaluate. I'm refreshing this window. So now it should have turned compliant. Yeah, so if you can go here and see, the same rule which became non-compliant has become compliant. So that's how we do this is a very small example of how we have done auto remediation using Lambda, but there is tons of scope. There's a lot of examples which we can bring in, but I'm sure this code will help you to start somewhere and use as much automation as possible And this is how you can automate governance itself. So even though we have set up certain preventive security policies, there are situations where things can go wrong. And when things go wrong, uh, our aim should be such that without a manual intervention, uh, things get back to the normalcy through automation. And this is one such example. So that's all I had for today. Any questions you can always put in the chat window. I'll hand over the session to Manish.
Thanks, Raji. We will request you to stay with us in the backstage. We also have Manish here. But before we pass it on to Manish, there are obviously some questions which you want to pass it on to you, Raji. The
Yeah.
question one is, does AWS config support cross-account resource analysis? AWS organization.
Yeah, so config has to be ideally set up at the landing zone level. So though I showed you for one of the account, when you set up the landing zone, you will have a master account, you will have member accounts, right? So ideally config should be enabled in all of the member accounts, and the logging or the findings that config generates, they all should be centralized. So there will be one shared services account in your landing zone, which will centralize all of these config findings, and it will show you in one single place. So that's how it should be ideally done.
Correct. Yep. I think there is a follow-up question. Is AWS config a global or a regional service?
It's regional. It's regional service.
I think that from other community member on similar lines, are these rules regionally specific, region specific, and will only holds for AWS resources in that specific account? If not, can they be made regional specific? This is with respect to config.
Yeah, so it is regional. It is a regional service. So in one account, say you have Mumbai and you have Singapore, you have to enable it in both these regions. And there is something called configuration aggregator. I wish I had some time to show a demo on that, but the purpose of this aggregator is to ensure that across accounts, across regions, you will be able to collect these findings and bring it to one single lens. But I would say you should centralize all of these in the landing zone itself. So when you put down the landing zone, after you create the master account, dedicate an account for audit. That's a shared service account. So in that audit account, enable config, which will be the place where you can centralize the config findings from all the member accounts, all the regions, wherever you want in a single place. So that way it becomes easier to manage.
So I think those were the questions Raji we had. And again,
Okay.
audience guys, if you have more question, Raji will be with us in the backstage.
Yeah.
So please put the questions in the chat. We'll again have Raji once Manish is done with the session. After the quiz, we'll have Manish and Raji both to talk about their details. So please go ahead. If you have any questions, keep putting in the chat, and we'll go ahead with our second part of the session. And I'll pass it on to Manish. Manish, over to you. You want to bring up your screen, please?
Yeah, sure.
The screen is live, Manish. You can go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Raji. That was a wonderful session. It gave us a lot of insights on the compliance perspective. Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Manish Ranglani. So I'll be continuing this session. I'll be explaining you two more services in that track, Resource Explorer and the AWS System Manager. So let's start with the AWS Resource Explorer, and let's understand what this service is, how this can be used in our day-to-day job. So to give you a certain overview about the AWS Resource Explorer, so as the name says, it is the resource search or the resource discovery service. Using this, you can search the resources across your different deployments which are there. it can help you to search a resource not only in within your single region but across the regions that are enabled in AWS. AWS Resource Explorer is a global service, so you don't need to go and specifically select that service from the any of the region. You can directly go to the service and start using that right away. Now, typically, how any search mechanism works. So, as we know, like for any search engine, if I take the example, what happens? Any search engine or the search service, they basically crawl certain data sources. They crawl it. They create some sort of indexing, and whenever user fire any query, it goes to that indexing and try to search from that index database. Similarly, in the Resource Explorer, it is the same funda. What happened? It crawls the data, it creates the indexes out of it, and you have the some control or the granularity, what sort of resources it should crawl. We'll see that in a demo. Apart from that, you can also search the resources by using their IDs, by their names, tags. So if you want to see what are the resources which are untagged in your account, which are not meeting to your compliance, what you need to do, you need to get the list of all resources. You can make use of the AWS Resource Explorer in that case. Again, it's a natively integrated into the AWS console, and most importantly, it is a free of cost. Okay, and this is service which AWS recently had launched, I think last year only, where it could prove as a boon for the operational resources. It happens you have plethora of services deployed in AWS, a lot of workloads running. Now, how do you track to one specific resource in your entire account? Sometimes it becomes very very critical and very cumbersome to get into that particular resource. Typically what we do, we if let's say if you want to access any of the EC2 resource, what happened? You log into the console, you go and select one of your region from the top ribbon, get inside to the EC2 service, and check for the EC2 instance. What if you can get the access of that resource right within your console, regardless on which screen or which page you are in? That is where the power of Resource Explorer come into the picture. And there are a lot of services which you can actually use with the AWS Resource Explorer. We'll see that in a demo. And as I said, it is free of cost. All you need to do is go and activate that service. All right. So just to give you some little insight on the indexing, how the indexing works in Resource Explorer. So when you go and enable this service in your AWS account, as of today, there are 17 AWS regions which are there deployed, which are operational. When you activate this service, you have the control in which specific region you want to have this service enabled. In that region, it will create the local indexes. And out of those 17 region, you can select one region as your primary region, which is having which going to have the aggregator index. Now, what is the aggregator index? So all these local indexes which are there in different regions, they're going to aggregate their details and give it to the aggregator indexes. And aggregator indexes will have the default views which you can use it. You can search it either from your local indexes or from the aggregator indexes. The control or the option is with you. And as I said, there is a concept where it creates the indexing. You can create the views on top of it. You can create a view where you want to see all the EC2 instances which are not tagged to as per your complaint policy. All the Lambda services which are having certain types of attributes in this. So rather than going and searching those things across your different regions, it will give you one single consolidated view where you can go and see those details. And that's a concept of the local and the aggregator indexes. One more detail before we get inside the demo. So There's just a few concepts we just need to remember when we deal with the resource explorer. So one is explorer admin. So admin is nothing but a user who's having the IAM permission to manage the settings in AWS Explorer, where they can create the indexes, they can manage the views, so on and so forth. AWS Resource Explorer users the one who can actually go and search the resources. That is where you have the another concept where we call it AWS Resource Explorer user. Indexes we just talked about, views. So that also we discussed. You can have the different views and the details, or you can combine the views as per your requirement. Resources, yes, these are the entities which you can use in AWS Resource Explorer. Very important thing when we deal with the AWS Resource Explorer, if you see, it is not going to index the data which is there inside your objects. It is just going to index these services. To keep it in simple way, you can ask AWS Resource Explorer, give me all S3 buckets. It will gonna give you the result. But if you ask it, give me the records in a DynamoDB database which is having so and so value, so and so attribute, that gonna become the security compliance. It could happen even though you are the AWS Resource Explorer user, but you are not authorized to see the data within your DynamoDB. That can be restricted to some of the users who are only authorized to use that. So in that case, AWS Resource Explorer does not going to index those details. It will only index the services, not the data inside it. So some of the things that we can see on the screen, S3 objects, it won't, DynamoDB and the DynamoDB values, attribute and values. Yeah, so these are some of the ways where how we can use the AWS Resource Explorer. So one is the console. It's one of the popular way users they use, and give the consolidated unified view for all the services that are deployed. You can also use Explorer with the CLIs. There are AWS SDKs available and some query APIs which are also possible to access the Resource Explorer. So let's get inside the demo. I'll be showing you some interesting demo today. So stay tuned for that. So let me just minimize this screen. Okay. So I'm in one of my AWS account, and I'm on my AWS Resource Explorer page. You can of course search it from here to get inside the AWS Resource Explorer. As you can see, you will find all the details about this service here. Most important, it's pro bono. There are no charges which AWS gonna put it. So how to go and enable the Resource Explorer? Go and click on Turn on Resource. Now there are two options that you can see. One is the quick setup. Second is bit advanced setup that user can have the access to. So let's see the option number one, quick setup. What is that? So all the things that we just seen in the PPT, it will create all the indexes in all the AWS region. You just click it, pick. It's going to create the indexes and services ready for you to consume. There will be a local index. There will be the aggregator index. Aggregator index will have the data of all the indexes from all the regions. And it will create one default view for you. And that default view will be associated to this search bar. So whatever you search here in the console will be targeted to the default view. And there will be one of the region that you want to select as the aggregator index, whatever best per your requirement, you can do that. Option number two, advanced setup. If you see the things here, so it's okay, you can create the indexes in all the regions, but let's say I don't want to have the resource to index all my 17 regions as of now. I can exclude some of the regions as per my need. So it will never gonna track, never gonna scan those, and results will never be written from those regions. Second thing, Aggregated index, either you can have the aggregated index in one of the selected region, whatever region I said, or I can say, you may not have the aggregated index. Don't create the default view uh, for overall. You can create the default view for all these regions. Okay, I can even directly go and search from that region specific view rather than from the aggregated view. Okay, so these are the two options. If you want to say go it with the quick setup, so I'll say one of the region here, I want to select it as the, let's say, whatever, Ohio, or let's say Sydney region. I want to select as a aggregator index region. I will say turn it on. So based upon the number of resources that you have in your regions, it's gonna scan through. It's gonna show you the progress. Okay, it says okay, and the indexing is almost being done, or maybe it is running in the background. There's one index which I have selected, Sydney region. It has been promoted to the aggregator index. So what next? You're ready to go and proceed the search to all right. So here you can search from the resources, number one. So it may take some time for the resources to get scanned through. I've got one more AWS account. I would like to bring that up here. So this is the another account which I have, and I have configured the same services, same AWS resource configure services here. Let me show it to you. I've selected one of the region as a global region, and there's a one default view which is created inside it. Okay, now what? Everything is set up. Now let's see the real use case. Let's say I'm the operational guy, and I've received one of the ticket from the my client. Client is asking me, there's a user called Paul. Please go and give him some permission. Now, typically, what we do, we get inside the management console, search for the IAM service, and from IAM service, you go and search specific user which you want to give permission with, and then you do the rest of the things. What if I tell you you don't need to hop on the multiple places? All you can do, once the resource explorer have completed the indexing, simply you can search it from here. So the protocol is, you say /resources. All right, then what? Which resource you want to search? I want to search user Paul. See, it's giving the result right away. Now what next? I can click on that user. It will take me directly inside to that object which is being searched here. I can take the action on that. It's so powerful tool. I can add the permission, manage the groups, tags, so on and so forth. Next, let's say I've received the some documents, and my customer wants this document to be uploaded into S3 bucket. What I need to do? Again, no need to go to the S3 bucket. Say /resources, and this is a S3 bucket. Get inside it, upload your objects. That's it. It's so fast, so quick, and comes really gonna very handy for the ops and IT professionals. Okay, what next? So let's take one more example here. Let's say I want to see all the resources which are having certain tags. Okay, let's say it says there are 9 resources in your account which are having the tag as subnet. Okay, now if you can see, there are certain resources from US East 2 region, US East 1 region. Let's say I want to see only the resources which are in US East 1. What I can do, I can say region US East 1. So there are 6 uh, resources. Basically, those are the VPC subnets which are having the tag as subnet, and it's gonna give me the result right away. What next? You're gonna see the resources. Most important thing, AWS has launched this thing, I think last week only. Once you get these details, what you can do, you can actually go and export these details. So this is one of the new feature which AWS has launched recently. You can actually go and export all the data, whatever query you have. It happens sometimes, your customer asks you certain data, give me all these data which are having these attribute. Now it's a uphill task for user to go and search those different regions and get those data extracted. This is a centralized thing, and it's going to help you get the data as per you need. So I can export the data, and yeah, data will be ready for me to utilize whatever I want to create the reports on top of it. You want to give it to your customer, it comes very handy. Okay, what all other services it supports? So you can go and actually go and search here in AWS documents. So there are a lot of services Resource Explorer does support today, as of today. I hope in future there will be more services going to be added into this list. But whatever the list they have, started, they are very useful, I must say. Okay, and here one thing you can say, it's a global service. You don't need to select any of these specific region and perform your queries. What next? It support one more interesting thing. It is called a wildcard search. So let me see. It is giving me some instances which are having the name Contoso. Okay, I've given that as a star wildcard search, and if I get inside those things, I can directly take the action. On the EC2 instance, or for that matter, any of these services which is being searched upon. So see, I show you here. So there are 2 instances having the Contoso in their name. I can even search by their ID, attributes, other metadata tags. All right. So if you have any questions, please post it. I'll try to answer that a little later. Yeah. So demo part we have covered. Now let's move to the topic number 2, AWS System Manager. Now, again, it is one of the very important and very powerful service. If we use it rightly, it's gonna save us much of time and effort. Now, how? It happens. You have a lot of EC2 instances, for example, deployed in your entire account. One of the headache for the operational guy is to ensure the latest updates, OS patches, are being the latest feature packs are being deployed into the AWS EC2 instances. Now, what if the typical way is what? You have got 10 servers running. You need to log into each and every server, run the updates, repeat that for all 10 servers. Rather than, why can't you just centralize this entire OS patching, update saying, managing of your software inventory, updating of software agents in the centralized location? And that is where the power of AWS System Manager comes into the picture. It's gonna help you, track all the system configurations which are running, ensure there are all these software compliance are being met as per your organization. And again, very important thing, it is scalable. Scalable in a terms, tomorrow, if you have from 10 to let's say 50 servers running, in a less time, or in a few fractions, you can actually onboard these services, these new instances with AWS System Manager. and start using this service. Again, there are the advantages. It is, again, AWS providing is free of cost, so there's certain limitation on the number of the servers that you can add it with the AWS System Manager, but if you want to use it, it is free of cost. To give you a broader overview of this, so what are the things you can do apart from the OS patching? One is you can actually go and manage your hybrid systems. Now, quite a time it happened, customer, they wanted to have some of their data into the on-premise, some of their data into the cloud, some of their data into their private data center. So how are you going to ensure the compliance across all these different platforms? That is where AWS System Manager going to help you. Gonna use some sort of automation, any sort of automation, OS patches. You want to regular updates your IAM roles, you can make use of automation. You want to run some commands, you want to update some agents, you can make use of it. It maintain the security compliance, all the definition of the policies that you mentioned, it's gonna ensure those are in align to what you have mentioned. Again, it is cost saving, we discussed that. And of course going to give you control over the with terms of cloud trail. So all the actions which are being made are actually being tracked into the cloud trail, so which you can use. Okay, these are the 10 servers. You can produce an audit report. These are the 10 servers which were patched in, let's say, quarter 1. These are the 10 servers patched in the quarter 2, so on and so forth. So all the details are being tracked in the cloud trail. Okay, so there are a lot of services in AWS System Manager today. If I divide it into the 5 spectrum, one is the operational management, application management, chain management, node, and the shared resources. So for today, we'll be majorly focusing on the node management part of it. But to give you some overview what the other tracks are, so operation management, basically, it gives you the centralized view of all the operational data which is being running in your entire account. Gonna give you the dashboards, views. You can actually go and see that details. Application management. So if I talk about some of the application management related things, for example, application configuration, you want to store some parameters. Let's say I want to run some automation. In that automation, I need to give some username and password. Do I need to put this in automation? No. You can put those details into the AWS parameter application management parameter store, and sort of key vault you can utilize it. So rather than exposing the actual credentials, you'll be exposing the key, and that will be utilized by your other documents. Change management. So let's say if you want to make any changes into the resources, let's say today I've got certain patches released by AWS, and before I go and deploy those things, I need some sort of approval from someone to go and provide the approval. Change calendar. There are certain holidays. I don't want systems to be having any patches running on certain calendars. Okay, there are people going on a leave. Of course, you're on a leave, enjoying on a beach. You don't want to get a call from the customer, have got this thing screwed up when you're away from the system. So you can actually make the calendar on these calendars. System upgrade may not happen. Again, you can manage the maintenance window. Node management, we'll be seeing these things in detail in a demo, each and everything what it is, and shared resources as well. I'll be showing you what that is. Okay, so now it's a time for demo. All right, so okay, so this is my console. Again, I'm in my console. This is my account. How to get inside the AWS System Manager? Just click on here. Okay, the things which we discuss, you will be able to see on the left hand side: operation management, application management, chain management, node, and some document. Today, let's talk about the node management. Option number 1, fleet manager. What is fleet manager? So there are EC2 instances running in your account. There's a AWS System Manager. Now, if you want to make this automation for these EC2 instances with the help of SSM, AWS System Manager, you need to ensure one thing: the proper role is being assigned to those nodes. And if any of the node, let's say node in your AWS account, node in your hybrid account, on premise, it is being onboarded with the AWS System Manager, it is called as managed node. Now, those nodes you can actually manage it centrally by AWS System Manager. Now, for the purpose of demo, I've created two services, two EC2 services in my account, the same one which I've just shown it to you. Okay, let me create one more. By the time it gets created, we'll carry on with the rest of the demo. So let me go to the EC2 service. Okay, let me go to the same region, North Virginia. So how do you ensure any of the EC2 server which I'm creating, it should automatically get onboarded with the AWS System Manager? So what we need to do in this case, let's say when I launch the instance, I'll select rest of the parameter. Let's say I'm using the same Amazon Linux. I'll create one key. I'll select one security group. Now this is a very important part. You need to assign an IAM role to your EC2 instance. Now that role is, in this case, created SSM testing role. Now what is it? I'll show you. Let me just fire a command here. Okay, so let me launch the instance. By the time instance is being launched, let me show you what the SSM, again, like I'm making use of Explorer to search any role. Okay, so this is a custom role which I've created. In that role, there are certain services the EC2 instance will assume. What is that? Okay, it is going to communicate with the SSM manager, AWS System Manager, and these are the policies which I have assigned in that. So once you assign these policies to IAM role, attach that IAM role to the EC2 instance, the EC2 instance will automatically gonna onboard it with the AWS System Manager. Okay. So what next? So once that is done, okay, I think instances is being launched. Let me go to here. Okay, so now you can see earlier there were two servers running, two EC2 servers running. Now we have got one more server associated with the AWS System Manager. And please note one thing: if you've not attached the IAM role, this machine will not get onboarded. Okay. So now let's say I've got these services running. Let's get inside to one of the server. Now it gives me all the details about the node which is there. Okay. Now one of the things I want to highlight is SSM agent. Now, what is SSM agent? So what happened when you're giving the permission? By default, in most of the AMIs which you're downloading from the AWS System Manager, AWS marketplace, there's one agent which is always there in EC2 instance, and that agent gonna give all the details to AWS System Manager. Okay, so under the hood there's an agent which is working. Okay, and it is passing on all the details to the System Manager. What else? You can actually go and see what are the file systems. Okay, so these are the directory. Okay, if I need to create one directory, I don't need to get inside the AWS EC2 instance. I have the control here. I can go and create a directory right here. It will create a new directory in there. Okay, So for this, I think there's one KMS encryption I need to enable. Okay, it's taking some time, I think, to load it. Okay, to show you one more thing, if you want to create a new user, so again, the same thing, I can create a new user right away from my AWS, this option. Same as for the group. If you want to create a group, the same uh, things apply. For the processes, I think it is taking some time, but it will again show you all the processes which are there running in your node. What is the CPU and memory utilization which is being running, and those detail you can actually go and see here. Same as for some performance counters. Let me see if I have. Okay. All right. So these are the services, EC2 services, which are running in your AWS uh, account. Now, what if you want to onboard one EC2 or one virtual machine which is not in AWS? I'll give you one of the demo here. So let me close it out. So this is my Azure, let's say, uh, account. I'm going to create one virtual machine right here, and that virtual machine is going to be onboarded with the AWS System Manager. So how that is done? Let me quickly show you one example here. So I'll be creating one virtual machine. Okay. All right. So I'm creating one, let's say, Windows machine here, and just selecting the basic SSD. Did I miss any of the setting here? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, rest of the things seems fine. Okay, so it will provision a new virtual machine in my Azure account. Meantime, I just want to show you one more option here. So configure the default host management. Now, this is again a new feature which AWS has recently launched. So typically what you need to do, you need to attach the IAM role at each of the EC2 instance. What if you want to automate that thing? You don't want to, there are 10 servers today you're creating. You don't want to assign the IAM role at all 10 servers. Simply you configure this option, configure default host management. In that, it will ask you, one IAM role. Once you again the same role, this is only one time role you're going to provide that. So all the EC2 instances which are running in your AWS today or in future will automatically get onboarded with the AWS System Manager. Okay, it says like you don't need to provide the IAM role at each and every level. Okay, so my resource has been created. Let me take the RDP of it. Okay, so till the time that is done, how the hybrid environment actually work? So let's see the another option here, hybrid activation. Okay. Okay, so you need to create one hybrid activation here. It's gonna give us some credentials, some keys that we need to keep handy. So what happened? Let's say I'm creating one activation. Let's say onboard my Azure VM. Okay, okay. By default, again, it's gonna assume one role, Amazon EC2 run command for your managed instances. I'm creating this activation now. So once that is created, it is giving me one important parameter, activation code, activation ID. As I said, you need to keep it safe and handy. Okay. So ensure these are the things that you'll be using while onboarding other machines which are non-AWS account. So, okay, so this is my Azure VM running fine. What I need to do, I need to get inside the PowerShell. Meantime, let me also take the script here. So I've got one script. Okay, and this is a script you can get it from the AWS document. What it does, you just need to enter the activation code and activation ID that you just received from the activation and place it here. Okay, now simply run that script. Going to take a minute or so to complete the execution. Okay, so the script ran successfully. Now, within a minute or so, what we'll be able to see, a new machine which going to be onboarded with the AWS System Manager. Or if I say that has already been onboarded right here. So this is the machine which is a Windows VM which I've just provisioned. It is not from the AWS platform, okay, and it got onboarded with the AWS System Manager. So this is the power of System Manager. You can get the virtual machine similarly from the on-premise, your data center, private data center onboarded right here. Just want to show you a little thing here. So what it does actually, simply it gonna download one Amazon SSM agent exe file from the configured path, and once that is done, it's gonna install it. Okay, and that's the reason you was able to see the SSM manage is running. Now your VM is connected. You are ready to do with your operation things. All right. Now let's move to the next part. Compliance. So again, it's gonna show me like what all the compliance status of your AWS resources. Is it high, medium, low? How many resources are being deployed as of now? If you want to see the details, click inside it. Gonna show us some other details. Okay, so as of now, it says the overall status of all of my EC2 instances are compliant. Okay, inventory. So again, it happened you want to see what are the different inventories you have in your entire account. Now, if there is one or two EC2 instances, is fine. But if you have plethora of servers running, number of EC2 servers running, it sometimes becomes very difficult to get those details. So again, here, okay, as of now, it is showing me all the managed instances. There are 4 managed instances which are being onboarded, and it is showing the inventory of all of those servers. It says like what are the top OS that your organization is using as of now. So it is showing me the Linux 23. There are 3 VMs. There's a Windows Server 2016. There's a 1 VM which is being used, and other details. What are the top 5 servers role? What are the top 5 applications which are running in your account? So on and so forth. Right? These are some agents. So the other things which we discussed. Session manager. So, quite a time it happened. Let's say if you are on call support engineer and you need to troubleshoot some of the thing which is in your EC2 instance. Now, what is a typical way? I mean, if you can help me to understand, when you want to troubleshoot something on EC2, what are the steps we follow? Typically, what we do, we go to that EC2 instance. Number one. Second, we actually open the port. Okay, this computer gonna be accessing the inbound. I mean, we enable the inbound port. This VM will be having access to do so and so thing. You do the SSH. Okay, and after doing the SSH, in that process, the very important thing we need to provide is the key. Okay, the key that we create, that we need to specify while taking the SSH. Fourth important thing is you take the help of some client, let's say putty for that example. Okay, so all these things you follow. Rather, can I simply do this thing without going through all these steps? Can I do that? Yes, you can do it. How? With the help of session manager. So AWS system manager gives the power to start the session, to use the PowerShell session within your browser. No need to go to all these things. How it does? Start a session. Let's say I want to troubleshoot some log file also. Okay, which VM you want to take the remote of. So let's say I've got this web server running. Say start session. I'm right here. So this is my PowerShell right within my browser. I no need to hop onto multiple things. I can do all the troubleshooting right here, get all the data analyzed within my browser itself. Once you are done, just terminate it. Again, I'll not show you all the commands. I mean, you can, with the PowerShell, of course, you can do the similar sort of things. So here, what it does, it maintains the history. Okay, what are the session ID, which user accessed that, which instance, and what was the reason to take the remote of that or PowerShell session for this. I've got system terminated. If you want to see what are the ongoing or the sessions which are going on are still active, you can see all those details right here. Okay. So these are some additional details of the AWS system manager preferences, where you want to have the cloud watch log enable, how much time you want to keep it open, idle time, session timeout, any logging you want to do in S3. All those things you can actually manage from here. Very important. Environment variables you can also mention in this thing, in the preferences. Next, run command. Let's say there is some agent which I need to install, or there is some service which I need to install on my EC2 servers. Okay, I'm not upgrading. I just need to install some service in that. So Typically, again, I don't need to get inside all those VM one by one, run the command. What you can do, make use of run command tool. Now, how it works? Say run command here. Now, what is that you want to do with this? You want to run the command, but what exactly you want to do with the run command? You want to create the backup of all VMs. You want to install some agent. You want to create some Docker file in all of those virtual machines. Okay, so let's say in this example, watch what I'll be doing. I'll be running. Okay, so what I'll be doing, I'll be running one shell script here. Let me run the shell script. This is the command I want to run. Okay. You can run it on VM, supported Linux, Mac OS. What is the command that you want to run? What I need to do, I need to actually install server, web server. Simple command, sudo yum install httpd httpd/y. Okay. Do you have any working directory you want to mention? Very important part, on what all servers you want to run this. You want to mention those servers right here with the help of tag. You want to select those servers manually. You want to make use of resource group. Now, resource group is again one of the different servers where you can actually combine. You can create the cluster of the resources, okay, of the similar properties. So let's say for this demo, what I'll be doing, I'll be running this thing on my, let's say, two of my servers, app server and web server. On those servers, I would like to run this command, and other parameters, whether you want to create the output logs on S3 bucket, you can mention all those things. Cloud alarm, you want to have the integration with any notification you want to give once the command runs successful. Once that is specified, click on run. So it says there are two targets here, which are in progress. And see, they have run successfully. Okay, there are two instances. Let's see what's the outcome. Okay, so if you see the output, okay, so here it will show if there are any errors, anything goes wrong while running this command, all the details will come here. Rest in output, you will be able to see, all the commands which have been run successfully. So here I was successfully able to install a web server, Apache web server on my VMs without getting inside into those VM. Okay, number one. Next, what? Similarly, you can run the command for the user creation. Okay, so let's say I want to run the command. What I need to do, I want to create a user. You can create a user, you can create a group, likewise. Okay, so before that, let me show you the user does not exist as of now. Okay, so from here I can see, I can take the control via putty, or I can also actually, rather than going there, let me stay within the AWS System Manager. Okay, I'll be going to the service fleet manager. Okay, so let's say on this web server. Okay, so as of now, these are some of the users. Let me say there's no user called as test user as of now. Okay, what I can do, I can run that command. I want to create a user. Okay, what is the name of user you want to create? Let's say test user. I want to create a user. You want to create the home directory? Yes. You want to perform the action? Yes. What next? the same set of thing you want to specify for this demo. Let me select them manually. I want to manually create the manually select the instance, and I need to get the users created, my web server, my app server. Rest of the services going to remain same. Let me try to run it. Okay, so it says it got succeeded. If I see the outputs, okay, so since it is a Windows, there are in this script there are two parts. One is for Windows and one is for the Linux VM. So for the Linux VM, it says the specify user had been created. So let's go and verify. See, the test user has been created, and this is my home directory. Similarly, in another instance, my app server and web server, the same thing has been done, okay, without getting inside my virtual machine. Let me take the patch manager first. Okay, so again, very important part. If you have VMs running, how can you? We've been talking about doing the patching. Let's see in a demo how the patching can be done in the AWS System Manager. So before that, just want to show you some overview, like what all things it shows. So it has a dashboard. I mean, certain properties have not configured as of now. So it will show you the dashboard where all the compliance related things get populated here. So it says as of now, compliance never reported, because just before the demo, I've created the instances. It takes some time to have the compliances updated here. Okay, and are there any policy based operation being done out there or not? Some compliance reporting, you can get it from here. Patch baseline. A very interesting thing here. Now, what is patch baseline? So what happened? You have got some updates from the provider, let's say from Amazon, and Amazon have, let's say, 10 new features in the updates which have released today, let's say of April 8. What happened? I don't want to install all those updates. I want to have my customized patch baseline created. I want to use that baseline. Okay, now what is that? So rather than using the out of the box which is being given, I can create my own patch baseline. Okay, so you want to create a baseline for what? Which OS? So I can select the name of OS from here. So let's say I want to create the baseline for the Windows, Linux, any of the resource we want. Any rules? What are rules you want to have implemented part of it? So it says approval rules for operating system. It says for the Amazon Linux 2, only critical updates I want to install it. Medium updates I want to install it. I don't want all set of severity updates are being installed in my VM. I don't want it. I can create customized base a patch policy here and work upon that. So let's say I'm saying just create the critical and important severity issues. Okay, that will be auto approval, means I'm okay to have those things approved. Auto approval for what? You want to approve the patches after specified number of days. Today patches being launched, you want to auto approve it like 5 days, 7 days, so on and so forth. You can select the specific date as well. Compliance reporting, so severity level for the report patches, that also you can select. Okay, you can create 10 such rules right within your this option, patch baseline. Exceptions, it could be possible I want to have some of the patches auto approved. Okay, there are, for example, if I say there are some KBs which AWS or Microsoft release, I want to have KBs excluded from those things. I can actually go specify patch 1, patch 2, patch 3 should be approved. patch 4 and 5 should be excluded. I don't want those to be deployed in my custom baseline. Okay, any sources that you want to select, any tags you want to add, and you go and create the patch baseline. Anything wrong here? Okay, here, let me say auto approve here. It will go and okay, really, so what's this? Did I miss anything here? Let me select all for the demo, say all. Okay, I think somewhere I've not specified some property, and that's the reason it is not allowing me to create this. But the fundamental remains same. I can create the custom patch baseline. Now, once that is created, I've got created some of the patch baseline already created in my account. So just for the backup purpose, I've created those things at the outset, and this is the custom Windows baseline policy I've created, and there I've mentioned some of the options which are relevant to my needs. Okay, so I don't want any days. Auto approval should be on the day 0 itself when the patch is being released, and it is for the Windows operating system. Okay, now what this is your patch baseline. Actual patches, you can patch the patches in a group here. So there could be patches of the service pack, some framework updates. You can group those things. Okay. Next, what? So let's try to patch now. So when you say I want to patch a EC2 instance, it will ask you what do you want to do? You just want to scan it, or you want to scan and run? I want to scan and run. Okay, if you want to scan and run, scan and install, sorry, what you want it to do after successful installation? You want to reboot? You don't want to reboot? You want to schedule a reboot? Could happen. The updates you have installed, but you are telling the downtime should be on so and so time because your customer is working on so and so time. Some business operations are running, so you don't want to disturb them. Let the updates being installed, but the reboot will happen only over the weekend. That's it. Okay, so I'm saying reboot only if it is needed. Patch all the instance. No, I want to, let's say I want to select manually instances I want to patch. Say this and this, some of the couple of instances I've selected. Okay, so it is going to create one patch association, and it will try to run the command. Here I've said patch my EC2 instances. It's gonna do that thing. Gonna take a minute or so. Okay, we can see in progress, like one it is showing, one is success, one it is showing as pending. Okay, the execution is successful, it says, and if I see the output, okay, skip because it is for the Windows, and if you see for the Linux, it will gonna say the patches has been done. Okay, so command successfully ran. Okay. This is fine, but what if you want to schedule it? You want to do it automatically. Let's say uh, at the second week of every month, you want to have this thing running automatically. Okay, that also you can do with the help of patch policy. You are creating a patch policy. Okay, so let's see what is it. Okay, see policy. What you want to do? You want to same. You want to scan and install. Let's say scan and install. When? So by default, say patch manager scan your node daily at 1 a.m. UTC. You can have your custom scanner running. You want to have scanning done uh, daily at so and so time. You can actually do the cron expression. You can say on you can write a cron expression on this day of a month and this hour you can do scanning. Similarly, for installation, the same thing. So if you see, there are two parts of it. One says custom scan on this schedule, custom install on this schedule. So you are scanning it, install when you want to install. Again, you want to install it daily? No, probably not. Over the some specified time when there no users are using your system, or during the downtime, you want to have the maintenance window. At that point of time, you can do it. Let's say I'm creating a use recommended default just for sake of this demo. Okay, recommended default, reboot only if it is needed. Patch baseline, select your own baseline. You want to use the AWS recommended baseline? Maybe yes, maybe no. I can create my own custom baseline. Okay, so I can have, see, one of the custom baseline which I have mapped for the Linux is custom core Linux baseline. Similarly, for the Windows, I can, for the Windows servers, I can have my custom. Okay, it is automatically showing me in the suggestion like this is a custom baseline you have created for the Windows OS. Okay, I can select that as well. Let me use the recommended here. I want to use write the output to S3 bucket of this entire operation. Very important part, target. If you see, it says you can deploy your patch policy across all the nodes in your organization unit and the regions in your organization. You can choose the custom organization unit. Okay, within account you can have your own organization unit, and in that organization unit you can actually select on this unit I want to have this policy enabled. Which regions I want to have this automation prepared only for, let's say Sydney region, or California region. I may not select all of those. I can customize those. Okay, so let's say North Virginia also. I can select Ohio, any of the region. Or I can say, you can keep it with the current account only, whatever account which I have. In this current account, so see the granular level of control it is giving. In current account, which region? You want to do it for the current region, you want to select the region, the same thing that we just said. Okay. How you want to target the instances? All the managed instances. Or I can specify the resource group. Again, as I mentioned a little before, resource group, you can cluster the resources of the similar property. You can specify a tag. Okay, so EC2 instance of this tag should be patched, or I can say them manually, default option. Okay, so let's say for this, or let's say for this server, I want to have the patch baseline policy created. Okay, these are some of the services. So it give you the summary, what you're doing. You're creating one policy, demo policy, which scan at this time, install your patches at this time, reboot policy, what you have done, so on and so forth. Regions you have selected, what are the nodes you have selected, so on and so forth. You can go and create it. Okay, let's select the S3 bucket here. Yeah, you must okay, it's saying you must specify the S3. Okay, So I trigger the command. It will take few good amount of minutes to actually create the policy, but the fundamental remains same. You specify all the details of the custom policy that you want, select the different configuration instances. Gonna take some time to gather the details and will show us the status. Likewise, you can see what all deployments which went successful, which were failed, in which region you want to see, the control. You have the control in which region you want to see the status of. It is taking some time. That's the reason it is showing some error here. It will take some time, but just to give the idea, this is the level of control that you have when you go and work with the AWS system manager. One more thing I wanted to show here in the run command, or in the distributor actually. So far we have seen you can install the EC2 instance, you can run the command, you can do the patching. What if you want to actually distribute your packages? You have got some package created. You want to deploy it on the number of machines. You can do it same way. Either you can create the package here. It says either you can go and create package, or for this demo, let's say I have got this software package, okay, which says it deploys AWS code agent, or you can do a number of things here, okay, EC2 launch agent, so on and so forth. What do you want to do? You want to see the details, install on a schedule, install it on one time. I want to install it just one time. Okay. If you want to install it, give the same set of parameters, which parameters which are relevant to this particular command. Now, one thing you've seen, it has actually brought up us to a run command. So behind the scene, what happened? Even though you want to run the command, you want to distribute the software packages, agents, logs, under the hood, it is actually using a run command. Okay, the same set of parameter which we have seen while creating the user, you can do it and run the command. It will work. Now, one thing I want to show you here. What is this? If you have seen, know the thing about the automation, there's something called as documents. Okay, so what are these documents actually? These documents actually are having the details what this command AWS config package will actually do. You can actually go and see the content of it. Okay, so you can write your own, you can create your own document, you can use the existing document, run it. It says it will install or uninstall the distributor package with whatever parameters that you give it. Now, if you want to see the list of all the documents, this is where you'll be able to see here. Okay, you want to see automation document, it will, again, this is one of the recent addition by the AWS. You can actually bookmark it. So all my favorites, all the documents which I run it on a frequently basis, again, no need to go and search directly. It will appear in your favorites tab here. You can go and use that. You can take the actions on it. Okay, you want to clone it, you want to create, you want to run it, you want to create a document, some sort of automation, you'll be able to do it. Okay. I think one last part of the state manager here. So what happened? Again, it as I mentioned at the start of the discussion, it also helps us to see whether the EC2 instance are drifting from your policy that you have defined. So there, you can actually go and create some sort of association. You can define this should be the state of my virtual machine or my resources. Okay. And if it is not getting compliant, you can actually automate it. You want to receive, you want to run some lambda, you want to receive some sort of notification, so on and so forth. Again, you want to do it periodically, daily, weekly, or you have your own custom schedule based upon your requirement. You can have those things configured here, and it will basically create the association, gonna monitor all the details in your AWS environment, and it will run through. All right. So I think that is it from my end about the AWS system manager. I'm done with the demo and the presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Manish, for giving the series of demo. I think it was really interesting to watch how you pretty much cover very well all the functionalities of the system manager. And guys, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. We have Raji also in the backstage as well as Manish. So if you have any questions, please put in the chat. If not, then we'll proceed with the quiz. We'll wait for a few minutes. Cool. I don't see questions. So, guys, I think I'll switch over towards the quiz. Uh, yeah, so I'm just sharing the link again. I'll post the link in the chat. Uh, I'll share it again. Give me a second. The link is in the chat. Please register it now. As well, I'll bring up the leaderboard quickly. So we can see 10 people who have registered it. I would request there are many more participants. So please do register. We'll wait for a few moments and then we'll start with the quiz. One more minute to go. Anyone still left to log in into the quiz, please do register and then we'll start with the quiz. Again, before we start with the quiz, couple of quick announcements. As we mentioned, this is going to be more like a tournament. We are already in the week 4 and we'll have two more or three more sessions to go. Post that we'll announce it. Yeah, sure. No worries. Take your time. There's someone who still need a minute or so. Please do register. If you have any questions, if you're facing any issue, please put it in the chat. We'll happy to help you out. I hope everyone is in now. Should we start with the quiz? It's good to go. Cool. Let me spin up the first question for today's quiz. So, which of the following service is not used to manage GRC? AWS Artifact, AWS Control Tower, CloudTrail, CodeStar. Which of the following service is not used to manage GRC? And the right answer is CodeStar. CodeStar is not used to handle GRC. A simple one to answer. I think there are there's someone in the chat reporting is unable to log in. Please try to log in again from the link. The link I've given in the chat, which is flashed on the screen. We'll go with the next question. Which resource type are not indexed by Resource Manager, Resource Explorer? I think Manish did cover up very well that topic. It's EC2 security group rule, DynamoDB table items, ECS container instance, IAM role. Which resource types are not indexed by Resource Explorer? EC2 security group, ECS container image, DynamoDB table item, IAM roles. The right answer is DynamoDB table items. And we can see 5 people have given the right answer. Prasanna at the top, Sagnik at second, and JP as third. Still, we have 8 questions to go. Here comes the third question. How can you access AWS Resource Explorer? Via Query API, AWS SDK, AWS CLI, all of the above. A very simple one. How can you access AWS Resource Explorer? Let's see who gives the right answer and what the leaderboard looks like. Yes, as 9 participants have given the right answer, it's all of the above. You can access the Resource Explorer via all the mediums. Let's go with the next question. Question number 4. What is the primary purpose of AWS System Manager Ops Center? What is the primary purpose of AWS System Manager Ops Center? 1. To monitor EC2 instance. 2. To automate operational tasks. 3. To manage Amazon S3 bucket. 4. To provide a centralized view of operational data. What is the primary purpose of AWS System Manager Ops Center? And the right answer is to provide centralized view of operational data. And the 5 participants have given the right answer for this. The leaderboards, there is a small change here. We can see Prasanna still remains at the top, JP as second, Netil has moved to the third, and Sagnik as fourth. Let's bring up the 5th question. Which AWS config feature is used to evaluate the compliance of your AWS resources against predefined rules? Which AWS config feature is used to evaluate the compliance of your AWS resources against predefined rules? Options are config rules, config aggregator, configuration recorder, resource inventory. And the right answer are config rules. 8 participants have given the right answer. The leaderboard still remains the same. Let's bring the 6th question. Last 5 questions to go. Please buck up now. Which of the following resources can be monitored using AWS config? Which of the following resources can be monitored using AWS config? Option 1, EC2 instance. Option 2, IAM users and group. Option 3, Amazon S3 bucket. Option 4, all of the above. Which of the following resources can be monitored using AWS config? Let's see who gives the right answer for this. And the right answer is all of the above. As we can see, all the participants have given the right answer. And the leaderboard still remains the same, but there is a small change which we can see from a timing standpoint on 4th and the 5th position. Here we go for the last 4 questions. Question number 7 on the screen. What is the purpose of AWS config dashboard? To create custom rules for AWS config, to manage compliant rules for your AWS resources, to manage the configuration of AWS resources, or to display information about your AWS resources and their configuration. What is the purpose of AWS config dashboard? Let's see who gives the right answer for this. And the right answer is to display information about your AWS resources and their configuration. 7 participants have given the right answer. And we can see the change in the dashboard. The Prasanna becomes at the first, Sentinel is second, and Anant has come on the third. Let's move to the last 3 questions. Here comes the question number 8. Which AWS GRC feature provides a unified view of your AWS resource inventory and their configuration compliances? Which AWS GRC feature provide a unified view of your AWS resource inventory and their configuration compliance? AWS Control Tower, AWS Artifact, AWS Config, AWS Security Hub. Control Tower, Artifact, Config, Security Hub. And the right answer is AWS config. We can see there's a change in the 2nd and the 3rd position. Prasanna still remains at the top. Last 2 questions to go. Here is a question 9, just coming on the screen. What is the AWS System Manager Automation Service used for? What is the AWS System Manager Automation Service used for? To automate operational tasks on EC2 instance, to install and manage software on instance, to manage patching of instance, to create custom workflow for IT operations. What is the AWS System Manager service used for? Let's see who gives the right answer. The right answer is to create custom workflow for IT operations. And 2 participants have given the right answer. And we can see a change here. Again, Prasanna at the first, Anant at second, and Akhilan at the third. The last question to go. And the last question comes here on the screen. What is the purpose of AWS System Manager Inventory? What is the purpose of the AWS Systems Manager Inventory? To collect metadata from instances, to install and manage software on instances, to manage patching of instances, to monitor and log instance activity. What is the purpose of the AWS System Manager Inventory? And the right answer is to collect metadata from the instance. And we have 3 participants who have given the right answer, and we can see a change in the dashboard. The first position goes to Anant. If I bring up the leaderboard here, the first position goes to Anand Goyal, the second goes to Prasanna, third goes to Arvind, and fourth goes to Akhilan. Congratulations to all the winners here. And as we mentioned, this is a tournament, so please stay tuned. And there are a couple of more sessions to go 2 weeks from now for the finale. So please to join us and participate in all the quiz and get reward in our last session, which will be in our finale session. So that's what we have from today's session. If you have any questions, we'll wait for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And again, if you're watching this session on demand mode, don't worry, put your questions in the form of a comment in the video. We will have Raji as well as Manish to answer it. Or if you are a part of our Slack channel of UG Mumbai, Manish and Raji are already part of it. You can tag them and you can ask the question there. The Lambda code which Raji given in today's demo, I've already pasted in the chat, and as well as I'll put as a comment on the video. So that's what we have from today's session. We are open for any questions now. Okay, I think there are no questions. Once again, thank you so much, Raji. Thank you so much, Manish, for spending time from your weekend, giving us this session and helping our wonderful participants, audience to get here.
Thank you, Sanchit. And we'll connect tomorrow again, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we have Raji again for our second session. So there we'll go ahead. Again, when it comes to the presentation, you'll get all the presentations compiled before our finale session. For that, you have to please register, because we'll only able to send the presentation to the registered folks. And here is a link to register for the session. If you want the presentation, any material, please do register. I'm flashing the link on the screen. If you have your details, then only we'll able to send you the material to you. And we'll have, as Raji mentioned, she'll be back with us tomorrow with another interesting session for our week 4th. And again, if you have any questions, do reach out to me or reach out to on our Slack. So that's all we have from today's session. Thank you to all the wonderful participants for staying with us, enjoying and asking the interesting questions to our speaker. So that's all from me, signing off for today. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.